Hello friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Mohamad and today we're going to be exploring AWS S3. S3 is simple storage service. In essence, it's a way for us to upload files to AWS. We're going to be exploring today the different types of S3, the different encryption mechanism that we can actually implement on it, the different tiers that there exist, as well as different types of the benefit of utilizing S3. As well, at the end, we're going to be building a .NET application where we're actually an ASP.NET Web API, .NET 6, where we're going to be actually uploading a file to S3, and we're going to go through all of the process in order for us to actually upload that file. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It will really help the channel. Now, let's jump into it. So let's see what are we going to be covering today. First thing we're going to be discussing is what is S3, and then we're going to be discussing what is an S3 bucket, some of the characteristics that S3 provides for us, and then we're going to see how we can actually secure an S3 bucket. Just beware, this is not the full scope of S3. There's a lot of more characteristics that we need to cover in order for us to understand the full scope of S3. But for now, we're just going to do like a general overview and some implementation with .NET, and we can see how we can actually upload a file from our .NET application to an S3 bucket on Amazon. So, what is an S3? In essence, it stands for Simple Storage Service, and it's basically a way for us to store files on AWS. Why is it really easy and why it's really important? Because basically it's one of the most easiest service we can actually learn and see how we can utilize within AWS. It's very easy to use. With some GUI interface, we can directly create our S3 bucket. It's very scalable. AWS will take full control of scalability of our S3 bucket. It's very secure. We're going to uncover the security aspect, and it's very durable. So what does durable mean? It means that they will not lose our file in essence. They have high durability depending on what type of storage tier we can take, but in essence, at least they have 9.99% durability, which is really good. So, as we said, S3 is just a way for us to store file in the cloud. Similar to Azure Blob Storage, S3 is for AWS. And in essence, it's basically a way for us to upload a file from our machines or from our servers to our cloud storage. And again, one thing I would like to mention here, that once a file is actually uploaded to S3, it's not called a file anymore, it's called an object. And in essence, because S3 cater for all types of different objects, not only files, so that's why once we upload a file from our machine to S3, it's called an object, it's not called a file anymore. So, what is an S3 bucket? In essence, we can think of buckets as folder. So, for example, inside our development machine, we can see, for example, we have a C drive, we have a D drive, for example. We have on our desktop, we can have, for example, documents, we can have pictures, we can have movies. So all of these are folders on our local machine. The same concepts apply on S3. So instead of calling them folders, we call them buckets. So for example, on S3, we have multiple buckets, or means multiple folders, and we can organize our files inside of buckets. And the nice thing about a bucket is we can put specific characteristic for every bucket by itself. So for example, we can make one bucket publicly accessed, so anyone could access the file there. We can actually have a bucket which is secure, where no one have access to it. We can implement a versioning on a single bucket. We can implement, for example, data redundancy on another bucket. So we can actually customize all of these buckets the way we want to, without actually having the need to change them all, or for example have the same characteristic all over again. So that's the power of buckets. It's basically a folder, and we can actually customize that folder the way we want. And something we really want to need to pay attention to is every bucket on S3 has to be unique. So for example, if I want to create a new folder on S3 and I call, for example, that folder development, this will not work, because I'm sure there's going to be 100 people or more, like 1,000 people who try to name their bucket development, and someone took it from them, and someone took it. So it will not be as easy as that. So what we need to do is we need to find a name which is going to be unique to us. So for example, I can have a folder name development-Mohamad, for example, I don't know, 1987, and then, for example, that may be a unique name that no one has it except me. So that's why every folder or every bucket name on S3 needs to be unique. And as we can see here from this URL, that's basically the structure of how we can actually have a bucket, or basically the way we can refer to a bucket on an S3. So first of all, we can see it's all HTTPS, which means it's secure. The second is the bucket name. So basically this is the bucket name where we're gonna have to give it, which is gonna have to be unique. Then it has to be .s3 because this is the service that we're utilizing, and then the region will appear. So for example, if I create my bucket in, for example, UK South, so that's gonna be, for example, I think EU region 2, or for example, if I create it in the US, it's gonna be East US 1. So we need to be pay very close attention to which region we're creating our bucket, because that's going to have different complications when it comes to costing, when it comes to latency, when it comes to all different types of services. So that's really important for us. And then after that, we can see that we have the Amazon AWS.com / the file name which uploaded, which again, a file on S3 is called an object. So again, the file name, the name of an S3 bucket has to be unique. And basically we need to make it in a way that specify with our region that we want to work in. So that's basically a quick summary of an S3 bucket. And now let's see some of the characteristics that S3 bring to us. And this is going to be a lot of characteristics, and there's a lot of upsides to utilizing Web3. And the first one, which is really, really important, is security. We're going to go through in depth of how to secure S3. But from now, we can think about it that S3 has a lot of built-in security features that allow us to actually secure our objects or secure our file on the actual storage. And basically we can do local encryption, and we can update, we can do update on the cloud. There's a lot of way we can actually go to it in order for us to think about the security of an S3. We're gonna cover this in a later chapter, but for now, all I wanna say about this is the security on S3, it's very high. The second point is the static object. So for example, whenever we upload any files to S3, they're always static. So for example, similar to what we have in Azure, we can host static website within our storage. We have the same functionality in S3. So for example, let's say we have a static website. It could be a front end, for example. Because it's not a dynamic website, we can actually host it within S3. And no matter what types of traffic we have, S3 will automatically be responsible for the scalability, for the security of all of these. S3 will take care of it. We don't have to worry about it. So, and the only way we can host a website on S3 if it's static. It means static means that it does not require database connection. It does not have any dynamic content. All of the information that exists within the website are hard coded to that website by itself. So that's why S3 will allow us to host any static object, and including static website. So any object or any file we upload to S3 has a characteristic of a maximum of 5 terabytes. So if the file size is more than 5 terabytes, we are not able to upload it to S3. So that's why the limitation is basically, I don't think anyone will have a 5 terabyte file, except if it's a really big database storage backup. But other than that, it's really hard to find a 5 terabyte file to upload, and that's the limitation. As well, with S3, we'll get unlimited storage. So we're not limited to the amount of file we can store. We can store, for example, up to like a 200 terabyte or 300 terabyte or 1000 terabyte. There is no way, or no one is stopping us from hosting as much storage that we want. And lastly, it's very easy to use, and this is something really important because it's one of the first services that came out of AWS and had a lot of refinement over the years, and it's a very, very easy to use service. It has a lot of functionality that we can implement. The graphical user interface that we use in order for us to log into S3 and create a bucket, it's very easy. With simple clicks, within like 30 seconds, we can have an S3 bucket up and running, so we can actually utilize. Again, easy to use is a very, very strong point of why we want to utilize S3. So now let's talk a bit about the security of our S3 bucket. So in essence, when it comes to securing an S3 bucket, we have encryption, we have an access control list, and we have policies. And all of these work independently, or we can work together in order for us to secure our bucket. Encryption, we're going to be delving into it after this slide directly of how the different encryption type. But for example, access control list is basically, we can think about it as rules of or set of conditions that we put on certain S3 bucket. Basically, based on that, we are able to actually specify who can access it, who cannot access it. Similar to policies, we have already covered them in a video previous to that. If you haven't watched it, I'll link it here somewhere. But also, we can implement those types of policy into our S3 buckets. So now let's talk about the encryption. In essence, when it comes to encrypting objects on S3, we have two ways of actually encrypting those files. We have either on transit or at rest. So what does on transit mean? On transit mean, for example, whenever we saw the URL of an S3 bucket, we can see that it's always start with HTTPS. And because it has HTTPS, it means that it's a secure connection to the S3 bucket. And HTTPS rely heavily on SSL and TLS settings. So basically, on transit, it means the communication between where we are actually uploading the file and the S3 bucket is secure. It's basically a secure tunnel where no one will be able to see. If someone wanted to actually try to take a look at what are the files they were actually uploading, they will not be able to know. Even if they try to, they will not be able to know. So that's why this is one way of securing our file between where we are uploading the file, for example, from our machine to the S3 bucket. This upload tunnel, if you want to think about it like that, from the machine to the bucket is secure. That's what's called in transit. The other type of encryption is called at rest encryption, and in essence, at rest encryptions, they have four different types. So the first one is local encryption. So what does that mean? So it means that we encrypt our file locally on our computer, and once we encrypt it, we upload this file to S3 as an encrypted file. So S3 will not have to do anything. Basically, we encrypt it locally, and once it's encrypted, we just upload it to S3, and S3 will take it from there. So that's one way to do it. Another one is basically have SSE S3. So what does that mean? Server-side encryption and with S3 keys management. So as we know, in order for us to encrypt files, we need to have certain keys, basically the encryption keys that we're going to be utilizing in order for us to encrypt and decrypt the file. So one of the features that S3 provide is an SSE S3, which means that the keys that we're going to be utilizing in order for us to do server-side encryptions are managed by S3. And this is, I think, based on my humble opinion, this is one of the best features that we can utilize, because basically S3 will take care of everything for us. We don't have to worry about anything else. The key management, the storing of those keys, the revolving of those keys, everything is managed by S3. We don't really have to worry about anything, and it's a very secure way for us to upload the file securely. So basically, we have a file on our machine. It's securely connected to S3 storage. As soon as S3 reaches the storage, the SSE S3 will take this file, it will encrypt it for us, and it will keep an encrypted version on the S3 bucket. The third one is going to be SSE KMS. So we didn't cover this earlier, but basically AWS has a key management system which is called KMS. And basically, if we want to store the encryption keys for our S3 bucket on KMS, we can do that. So instead of having S3 to manage the key themselves, what we can do is we can store those buckets on KMS. We can store those keys on KMS, and we can point out to S3, tell it that the encryption key that we're going to be utilizing in order for you to encrypt and decrypt the file are stored on KMS. So you need to get the information from there. And there's certain limitation there about the number of requests we can do. I will not delve into this right now because this is a general overview, but in essence, we can actually have the keys stored in KMS and utilize it in order for us to encrypt the S3 file. And lastly, it's going to be SSEC, which basically is server-side encryption. But we as customers, we have to manage our keys. So the keys could be locally, we can just upload them, so on and so forth. I don't really recommend this. It's going to be a lot of headache. Why we want to do this if S3 can do it for us out of the box, specifically with SSE S3. Now let us discuss what is a bucket type or classes of buckets. So in essence, there is a lot of different types, and we have here, for example, 6 types of bucket type that we can utilize. S3 standard, S3 standard infrequent access, one zone infrequent access, S3 glacier, deep archives, and intelligent tiering. So what's the difference between them, and when should we use any of them when we're trying to create an S3 bucket and we want to utilize any of them? So we're going to go through the different types of buckets, and we're gonna explain when should we use each. So the first one is gonna be the S3 standard, and the S3 standard is the most common type utilized, and basically it's the most expensive one. In essence, S3 standard has high availability, high durability. It means that they will not lose our file. It is already available in 3 different availability zones. So whenever, for example, we upload a file to a bucket, that file is duplicated to 3 different availability zones. It's stored in multiple data centers. So within within a single region, it's stored within different data centers within different multiple availability zone. It's suitable for most workload. There is not a single like yes or no. I think it's the most it's suitable for everything, unless you are doing really big archiving and infrequent access, which we're gonna cover later on. But it should be suitable for basically any types of workload, and it has the highest cost in class, as we said, because it provides us all of this flexibility, and as well it takes care, similar to everything within S3, of scalability, and basically take care of all managing the scaling up and scaling down based on the incoming traffic. So that's S3 standard. S3 infrequent access, it's basically similar to S3 standard, but there's some kind of differences there. And basically, in essence, we can store in infrequent access all of the files that we're not going to be accessing on daily basis. So, for example, I'm not speaking about archiving. I'm speaking about files that maybe we're going to access like twice a week, or for example, files we're going to be accessing a couple of times a month. So the costing is different here when it comes from S3 standard, because in essence the costing is going to be based on the size as well as the throughput of the data. So we have 2 types of costing that we're going to be thinking of here. So first of all, it's going to be per the GB that we're going to be storing, and per the GB throughput that we're going to be having. And just because we have different types of cost, doesn't mean it's going to be more expensive. It could be way more or less cheaper, but it's a way for us to actually store our files somewhere where we know we're not going to be accessing them on a daily basis, and in essence we're going to be able to save a bit of money on that. The third item is S3 infrequent access one zone. So basically S3 infrequent access is basically similar to S3. It exists in 3 different availability zones, and it stores the file across different data centers. In essence, S3 one zone infrequent access, it's what the name implements. So it means that instead of storing in different availability zone, it's only stored in one availability zone, and that also will bring the cost down, but that's increased the risk of, in case something happened to the data center, there is going to be flooding or a storm, or the power runs out, there might be a chance that we'll not be able to access our file, or we might actually lose our files. The third item is S3 Glacier, and this is actually utilized for archiving. So let's say, for example, we have accounting information, or we have some kind of yearly backups that we want to store, or we want to check, for example. So this here is best suited for files that we're not going to be accessing maybe twice a year, 3 times a year max, because basically the file for retrieving those files, so once we upload it, if we want to retrieve them, there's going to be a waiting time. It all depends on the file size and the configuration, so it can take up from 2 minutes to 12 hours to get those files back. But on the other hand, we're saving a lot of cost by saving that, because we don't really need frequent access to that file. We don't really need to have it available for us 24/7, and we want to place it in a where is it secure, and we can make sure that it's redundant, and basically we're gonna have it for a long time. So that's why S3 Glacier is best suited for archiving. The last one is not the last one. The other types of S3 Glacier is S3 Glacier Deep Archiving, and that's, for example, the files that you want to access very rarely, maybe once every couple of years, something like that. And the downside of this is, once we request a file, there's going to be at least a 12-hour wait before we can actually get the file back, because as the name implies deep archiving, it means that it is very stored deeply somewhere maybe under a mountain, we don't really know. And in essence, it's gonna take a lot of effort or a lot of time, up to 12 hours minimum, to get these files back, and we can actually utilize it. Again, the more that we don't access the files, the pricing will be less and less and less. and the more cost effective it will be, but not from a performance point of view, because it all depends on the use cases where we want to store these files. And the last one is S3 intelligent tiering. And in essence, S3 intelligent tierings mean here that we delegate the storing of our file in these buckets to machine learning. So in essence, there is a machine learning protocol which is running on S3, and basically it will take the decision for us on which type of bucket it needs to utilize. So for example, it analyzes if, okay, I don't really need to have a lot of, for example, if this file does not being accessed for like 2 months, it will move it to infrequent access, for example. If it doesn't, since it's in infrequent access, it hasn't been accessed for more than 1 month extra, so it will go to Glacier. It will analyze that file has not been accessed in more than 12 months, it will move it to Glacier Deep Archive. So that intelligent tiering there, it will basically do all of the calculation from the objects. It will calculate, for example, the size, how much time, the frequent access that we're going to have to it, if it has any types of versioning enable, all of that. And based on that information, it will be able to do this decision of where and which type we need to utilize in order for us to store that object. So that's a quick overview about the different bucket types. And right now, for this demo that we're going to be actually starting right now after this, we're going to be utilizing the S3 standard, the most simple one. And basically, in essence, once we have this the S3 standard up and running, we're going to see how easy is it for us to create an application and basically upload stuff to S3. And the last thing we're going to discuss is what do we need in order for us to do this demo. It's very simple. You need to have an AWS account in order for us to be able to create this bucket. You need to have the .NET SDK in order for us to utilize .NET. We're going to have the AWS CLI so we can store those configuration if you want, and we can pull them down from the machine, or we can just put them in the app settings. This is not really required, but it's a nice feature to have. And lastly, we're going to be needing Visual Studio Code because basically it's going to be our code editor. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is I already have my AWS account up and running, and basically what I'm going to be doing right now, I'm going to just first of all create an IAM user, which is going to be the user that I'm going to be utilizing in order for me to upload the files to S3, and then I'm going to be basically creating an S3 bucket. So let's see how can we do that. So we already covered IAM before, but let's do a quick overview on that. So I'm going to click on IAM, I'm going to click on users, I'm going to create and add a new user. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to just call it demo.user-1_1. I'm going to say it's only require programmatic access. Next permission. I'm just going to give it access to the admin group for now. Next. Next. And once I have it here, I'm just going to click on create user. And once the user is created, I can see I have my access key and my secret. So I'm going to keep those for now because I'm going to copy paste them to my application. So once we have done that, let me open this in a different tab. And right now I'm going to basically create my S3 bucket. So I'm going to click on S3. Let me zoom in. So what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm going to create a new bucket. So we have here like a nice button. It's called create bucket. I'm going to click on it. And basically it's going to ask me for my name. And remember, this name has to be unique. So I'm just going to call it demo dash, I don't know, YouTube dash ML dash 1. And it's going to ask me for the region. I'm going to choose to store it in EU West 2. So here it's asking me, do I want to copy it from an existing button? No. It's asking me, do I want to add access, any ACL, access control list? I don't want to add ACL, and as you can see, it's recommended to be disabled, so I'm going to keep it disabled. Do I want to give public access? Nope, I want it to be private. Do I want to enable versioning? No, we don't want to enable versioning. Encryption, I don't want to enable encryption at this moment, but let us see the options so we have spoke before. So we can see here that encryption, we have basically SSE, and as well we have KMS, and it tells us here that if we want to actually utilize SSE-C, which is basically our own key, what we need to do is we need to follow the AWS CLI uploaded from there, so on and so forth. We're not going to be applying encryption, but I just thought, like you can see here, how easy it is for us to just utilize encryption directly from the GUI. So I'm just going to disable it. Let's see advanced settings. Do you want to have an object lock? No, we don't want an object lock like now. Basically, an object lock means if we have certain regulatory requirement to keep the files for certain terms, we are not able, for example, to delete it, changes, update it. We have to have an object lock. We don't really want to do this right now, so we'll keep it as disabled. And as simple as creating a bucket, we're gonna have our bucket available. So we can see we have our bucket basically called demo-youtube-ml1 available. So if I click on it right now, we can see it's empty, it doesn't have anything. If I click on properties, we can see here that I have the different information that I have selected for my bucket. If I click on permissions, we can see everything is blocked because we did not allow anything basically. Matrix, there's no matrix because it's empty. Management, it allows us to manage it. Access point, nothing there yet, and we can see here that it's an empty. There's not a single file there. And if I click on info here, we can see more information about the actual objects. So that's in essence our basically how to create an IAM user and how are we gonna basically create a new S3 bucket. So now let's go to our terminal. And inside our terminal, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna navigate to desktop. I think there's a work in progress, and I'm gonna create a certain AWS folder. Okay, I'm gonna create a new folder called AWS, and I'm gonna go to it. I'm gonna basically create a folder called S3, and I'm gonna go to S3, and inside of here I'm gonna create my application. And basically what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be creating a web API as well. I'm gonna be creating a class library so we can actually reutilize the S3 library anywhere we want. So first things first, if I want to create a web API, I'm gonna be utilizing the .NET new web API -n. I'm gonna call it S3 file upload. Anything we want basically. Okay, great. Now that has been added. The next step is I want to create my class library. I'm gonna put .NET new class lib -n. I'm gonna call it AWS S3, as simple as that. Okay, once that has been done, the next step is I need to add a reference between my class library and my API. So it's gonna be .NET add, what did we call it, S3 file upload, okay, add reference to AWS S3, AWS S3. Now we have added those references. Now that's once that has been done, all we need to do is just type code, and basically we're gonna open in Visual Studio Code. Now that we have opened it in Visual Studio Code, we can see here that we have our class library, AWS S3, and we have our web API. Everything is there. If we click here, we can see that it has a reference. I'm just gonna refer back to this to .NET 6 instead of utilizing .NET 7. So I'm just gonna put it back to .NET 6 and Microsoft .NET Open API. So let's just utilize the version 6 of this. So let's just go to our web browser. I'm gonna be doing here is I'm just gonna go to Google. I'm gonna type NuGet, and I'm gonna take this one. So it's version 1.1.31. So let's just take this and let's open our terminal. And inside our terminal, I'm just gonna go to the S3 file upload, and I'm just gonna put .NET build to make sure that the application is building as it should be after we change the version, and it's not. Why? Let's see, what's the error? It's saying that found one invalid version. Okay, maybe I did something wrong. Let's see. Let's go back here. Oh, okay, that's a different one. See, we need to pay very close attention. So, okay, so we cannot use this one. Open API. So let's change it to what it was. It was this one. And let's do it not built. Okay, now what is it saying? Okay, what we need to do is we need to change this to .NET 6. Save it. Build it. Perfect, it's building. So you don't have to do that. Because I have a lot of different SDKs available and it shows .NET 6, .NET 7. There's nothing wrong with using .NET 7. I just want to make it a stable version right now because .NET 7 is going to have more updates, and I'm going to post this to GitHub, and most people will have .NET 6 installed on their machine. That's the only reason. Anyways, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be deleting this class. We don't really need it because we're going to be creating our own. And yeah, so now we have this. The next step is what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go to the AWS project, and I need to add a NuGet package in order for me to be able to connect to S3, and that's going to be .NET add package AWS SDK .S3, and let's see, it's getting it. Perfect, it's being installed. So now if I go here, I should be able to see it, AWS S3 with the latest version installed. Great. So inside my AWS S3 folder, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be creating a folder, and I'm going to call it models. We're going to store everything there. And I'm going to call another one called services. Great. So once I have done that, inside my models folder, I'm going to create a new class. And I'm going to call this class S3 object. And basically, this is the object that we're going to be sending to S3 to store there. And let's just make it compatible with .NET 6, removing these, removing this, just make it look nice. Okay, so the first item that we want to have inside our model here, it's basically, not this one, it's basically going to be the name. So we're going to put prop, string, name, and by default we want to make it null. The second one is going to be a memory stream, because basically that memory stream is going to be the file in byte array, and that byte array is going to be uploaded to S3, and we're going to be calling this input stream, and it's also going to be null. And lastly, what we're going to be adding is the bucket name that we want to upload to. So it's going to be a string, and we're going to call it bucket name. Okay. So once we have done that, basically right now what we need to do is we need to add the different DTOs, or basically, because right now the idea is once we upload a file to S3, the default return type, if S3 actually accepts the file, is going to be 200. So what we want to do is we want to cater for this response that we might get back. So it's going to be a response with basically an HTTP status code as well as a message. So we're going to add the model for it right now. So inside our models folder, we're going to create a new class. Where we're going to call it S3 response DTO. Again, let's make it to the .NET 6 aesthetics. This is basically doesn't have any functional except looks. And basically we're going to put prop and status code. So that's going to be the HTTPS status code once we upload. And the second one is going to be prop string message. Great. So now that we have done that, and basically we have set it up, let's make this as null by default, and this can be by default 0. Let's give it default of 200, and then we can change it based on that. So once we have done that, the next item we want to do is basically we want somewhere where we can actually store the AWS key and secrets, so we are able to pass it here and we actually utilize it. So we're going to create a new model, and this model is here. We're going to call it AWS credentials, and basically inside this AWS credentials here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to just put prop string AWS key, and it's gonna make it empty for now, and we're gonna put prop string AWS pass, or a secret key, we can call it AWS secret key. We're gonna make it also empty for now. Let's fix this here. So once we have created all of these models, the next step is we just want to create some kind of should be created. Okay, let's save this and let's create a new class, and basically this class we're just gonna call it constants, so we can actually refer to the information inside our app settings to pull out the information. There's no really need for it, but let's do it anyway. Prop static string, I'm gonna call it access. We don't need this. Access key. Gonna be access key. It's gonna change right after we upload it, but for now let's keep it like this. Public static string AWS. Actually, we're just gonna put private key or secret key, and we're gonna put here secret key. That should be fine. Okay, once we have done that, the next item here inside our services, we're gonna start building our service, and basically we're gonna create a new class, and basically we're gonna call this iStorage service. Very simple. It's gonna have only one method for now, and it's not a class, it's an interface. So we need to create an interface. Let's fix this aesthetics here, and basically in essence what we're gonna be doing is we want to create one single method which is going to be responsible for uploading the file to our S3 bucket. And in order for us to do that, basically it's going to be an async, so it's going to return a task. And what do we want to return? We want to return the S3 response DTO that we just created. S3 response DTO, and we're going to call it upload file async because it's an async file async. And what is it going to take? It's going to take the S3 bucket, S3 object, sorry, we're gonna say S3 obj. We're gonna pass the AWS credentials to it. I think that should be fine. Let's fix those references. Perfect. So this is gonna be our interface, and this is the method that we're gonna be implementing. Basically upload file to S3. It takes the object itself, it takes the AWS credentials, and it's going to return for us a response from basically from the S3 itself. So now that we have done that, now we need to create the service. So let's create a class now, and we're just going to call it storage service. Again, let's fix those aesthetics and the semicolon. Let's fix this, and here what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to put iStorage service. And it's going to say, oh no, you did not implement the method. Don't worry, we're going to implement it. So let's click on this. I'm just going to implement interface, and we can see it's already ready for us to be implemented. So once we have done that, the next step for us is to actually start building this method. So the first thing that we need to do is basically we need to actually start building our credentials. So let's delete this. We don't really need it. And we're going to put var credentials equal new AWS basics credentials. And let's fix those references here. Actually, let's make it like this. AWS, oh, is it basic AWS? I think basic AWS credential. Let's see if this is gonna work. Basic AWS credentials, basic, not basics, basic. Okay, perfect. So it's expecting basically to pass the keys and a secret, so that's what we're gonna be doing. AWS credentials dot access key, and then we're gonna put AWS credentials dot secret, as simple as that. So that's what's gonna be. First, let's add a comment here, adding AWS credentials. So once we have added the credentials, the next step basically is we need to add the configuration, and we need to specify to which region that we want to upload to, because basically we created our S3 bucket in a single region, and that's why we need to specify the region. So it's going to be var config equal AWS, actually Amazon S3 excuse me, config. Actually it's going to be new, forgot the word new. And then it's going to be something like that. Let's fix those references. And here we're going to specify the region, excuse me. It's not this one, it's going to be region endpoint. It's going to be equal Amazon dot region endpoint dot, I think it was EU was 2, yeah, I think that was it, and that's it. So now that we have added the config and we have specified to which region that we want to upload the file to, or basically where the bucket exists, specify the region. So once we have done that, the next step is we need to start building our response. So basically that's gonna be what we're gonna be trying to send back to the user after the object has been uploaded. So var response equal new S3 response DTO, or if you want to use the other way, well, let's keep it like this. So now let's go try, and then we have to put a catch, exception, EX, and at the end we're just gonna be returning the response, and then we can build it as we want. So let's see, Amazon response DTO, what does it say? Okay, don't worry, we're gonna build it up right now. So the first thing is we need to do is we need to prepare the file for upload. So we need to do var upload request equal new transfer utility upload request, and we're gonna build this. So let's fix this. And here what we're gonna be doing is, first of all, we need to pass the input stream, which is gonna be coming directly from the S3 objects. So equal S3 objects dot input stream. The next one is gonna be the key, which is gonna be basically because the object in the S3 bucket is referred to as the name of it is referred to as key, and basically the actual content of it is the value for it. So it's a key pair. So right now we're gonna put just obj.name of S3, actually S3 object dot name, and then basically we're gonna specify the bucket name. It's gonna be S3 object.bucket name, and lastly, if there is any ACL, we're just gonna say S3 canned ACL dot no ACL. We don't really want them right now. So once we have done that, we have specified the upload request. The next step is basically we need to actually initialize an S3 client, and that S3 client is going to be responsible for us to send the files to S3. So var client, actually let's make it different, using var client equal new Amazon S3 client. We're gonna pass the credentials, and we're gonna pass the config that we have created earlier. As simple as that. So here we created an S3 client. Simple as that. So once we have created the S3 client, the next step is we need to actually start by initializing the transfer utility. So we're gonna put var transfer utility equal new transfer utility, and we're just gonna pass the client to it, because this transfer utility is gonna basically we set up a client with all of the credentials that we need to communicate with S3, and then we said, okay, in order for us to upload this file, we need this utility or this function or this library in order for us to actually take this file and upload it. And in order for this library to work, it needs to know what is the client that we created, and that's what we're doing here. So here it's just going to be upload utility to S3. And then once we have done that, the long await transfer utility that upload async, and a simple what do we want to pass to it, we're going to pass the upload request that we have created. And here we're actually doing we are actually uploading the file, loading the file to S3. This is where we're actually doing all of the heavy lifting. So because right now, if we look at this, it's gonna return a task. So we assume that it's gonna go correct. So that's why what we can do is we can say response dot status code. We can just give it a 200, because whenever we upload a file to S3 and it goes successfully, we'll get a 200 response. And response dot message, I'm gonna say let's make it concatenation, and we're gonna say what is the S3 object, not S4, S3 object dot name. We say has been uploaded successfully. Okay, so now this is going to be the response that we want to send in case it went to plan, the upload went to plan. But what we're going to be doing here as well, we want to add an additional catch, which is basically specific to S3. In case there is any failure, we're going to be able to catch it here. So we're going to put catch, and we're going to put Amazon S3 exception, and we're going to call it EX. Very nice. And basically let's copy this instead of recreating it, and basically here we're going to put EX dot http where is it, EX dot status code, I think. Let's see if this is it. If we hover, what does it say? Yeah, status code. So let's use this. And because, what does it say? It's not able to convert status code to int. That's fine. Let's do int, and let's pass the message. So it's gonna be ex.message. As simple as that. And right here, we're just gonna take this, copy it, paste it here, and basically instead of having this EX status code that doesn't exist, we're just gonna say 500, something went wrong, and the message is whatever the exception here, and we're returning it. I think this method here is basically covering everything that we need to do in order for us to upload to S3. Let's just do a quick recap. So basically what we did is, first we have created this service so we can actually integrate with it, and then what we have done here is we created this we implemented the method. We first added our credential, we specified to which region we want to upload, we created the DTO, which is going to be the response type, and then basically we specified the transfer utility upload request, where we specified all of the different parameters for our S3 object that we're trying to upload. We created the client, which is going to be communicating with Amazon S3, and then we specified the transfer utility that's going to be utilizing this client. We initiated the upload. If all goes to plan, we're gonna get a 200 with a nice message. Else S3 was gonna specify the error that we have. If the error is not related to S3, we're gonna see it within the exception, and then we're returning the response. Great. Now let's go to our S3 file upload, and let's go to app settings. And inside of here, what we're gonna be doing right now is we're gonna be adding the AWS configuration that we want. So here, let's add this. We'll add a new comma. And let's add a new section, and we're gonna call it AWS configuration. Yeah, I think that's it. And then basically what we're gonna be doing here is we need to specify the AWS access key, and we're gonna be specifying the AWS secret key. And you might think, okay, from where do we get these? Don't forget, if we go back to our web browser, what we did is we have created here a user, and we can see here that we have our access key and we have our secret key. So all I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna copy this, I'm gonna paste it here, and I'm gonna show the secret. Don't worry, I'm gonna delete it before anyone else uses it. We did not copy it, so let's copy this. And let's paste it here. Okay, that's it. So now that we have our AWS access key and secret key, what we're going to be doing is we need to update the controllers that we have. So first of all, let's delete this. We don't really need this, so bye. And then here inside the weather forecast controller, it's all built in. We don't really need to worry about it. So let's delete this. We're going to keep the logger here. Do we need this? No, let's delete it. We don't really need it. Okay. So first things first is we need to upload this controller in order for us to be actually able to utilize this. So what do we want to do first is we need to create a new action, and this action is going to be a post where we're actually uploading the file. But before we do that, okay, let's build the action. So let's start first by adding some of the dependencies. So it's gonna be private, read only, and we called it the iStorage service. So now we're gonna continuing building our service. So let's fix those references here. Now we're gonna be utilizing constructor injection, iStorage service. We're gonna call it service. Actually, let's call it storage service. Better name. Yeah, better. I'm gonna call it storage service, and we need to inject it here. So it's gonna be underscore storage service equal storage service. That's great. So once we have done that, now we want to start actually building our action. So let's come here. We're gonna put HTTP post. We're gonna give it a name. We're gonna say just upload to S3. Upload file, actually. Easy. And then we need to create our function is gonna be public async task. It's gonna be iAction result upload file. It's gonna take iForm file, and it's gonna call it file, as simple as that. And once we have done that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start processing that file in order for us to upload it successfully. And it's very easy. So First of all, we're gonna just process the file, and we're gonna put await using var memory stream memory str, we're just gonna call it, equal the new memory stream, because basically what we need to do is we need to convert this file to a memory stream so we're actually able to pass it to the S3 object. So once we have done that, we're gonna put here now await file.copy to async, and we're gonna copy the content of the file to a memory stream. So now basically the file is of type iform file. This is gonna be which is uploaded. What we're copying what we're doing is basically taking that file, copying it to an array of a memory stream, and then basically making it ready to upload to S3. Once we have done that, the next step is we need to just have a name. So we're gonna put var file extension equal path dot get extension, and we're gonna pass the file.name. And then in order for us to upload it to S3, we're just gonna give it a random name. So we're gonna pull file object name, and we're just gonna, let's do string concatenation, and we're gonna be utilizing, basically we give it a GUID. So GUID dot new GUID, and basically we're gonna put dot file extension. Okay, now that we have basically created a new file name and for us to upload, the next step for us is we're just gonna initiate this S3 object equal to new S3 object. Let's fix this reference. And oops, let's do it like this. And we know what is the file type that this S3 object is going to take. It's going to take the bucket name. And let's see, what did we call the bucket? If we come here, we called it demo YouTube ML1. So let's copy this. And then we're going to pass the input stream. It's going to be the memory stream that we have. And lastly, we're going to pass the name of the file, which is going to be object name. As simple as that. So now that we have specified the file that we want to upload, the last thing is we need to specify the credentials. Var cred equal new AWS credentials. And basically, we're going to be reading those credentials directly from the app settings. So what we can do here is we can actually refer back to the dependency injection and utilize the config from there. So let's go up and add it. So here we're just gonna make it a private read only iConfiguration underscore config, and we're gonna put iConfiguration config, and then we're just gonna pass it here underscore configuration config equal config, and then we're gonna be utilizing this here. So the first thing is gonna be the AWS access key. It's gonna be ada underscore config, and let's see what's the path for it that we have added. So it's gonna be AWS configuration with AWS access key, AWS configuration, and then we're gonna put the access key. Then we need to put the key. It's gonna be, let's copy this, and then we'll add the last, we'll update the last part. So here, instead of an access key, what we're gonna be doing is secret key. So let's copy this, paste it here. I think that should be fine. And lastly, we're gonna be initializing the upload, because basically that's what we want. So we're gonna be utilizing that service. So we're gonna put var result equal await underscore storage service dot upload file, and we're gonna pass whatever we have here. So it's gonna be the, what did we call it, the S3 object and the credentials. And then lastly, what we're gonna be returning is an OK with the result. Why is it not happy? Oh, okay, I think that should be fine. I think the last step that we need to do here in order for us to complete is we need to do some dependency injection. So if we go to the program.cs, we need to actually tell this that there's a service that it needs to utilize. So what we can do is here we can put just builder.services.add scoped, and we're gonna add the I service, actually what is it called, I storage service. It's going to be storage service. So now the entire dependency injection is going to be handled by ASP.NET. We don't have to worry about it. I think that should be it. And let's run it out. Let's see. So ls, so cd, let's go back to the other application, which is going to be the S3 file upload. Oh, first of all, .NET build. Great, .NET run. Let's add the password. Perfect. And now once we have done that, let us go to our web browser. It's localhost 7085. So let's open it up. Let's just copy this. And 7085. Okay, so here we have our post for the weather forecast, simple, and basically if we click on try it out, we can see it's expecting a file, because if we go to our source code, we can see here that we are expecting a file. Where is it? We're expecting an iForm file, so let's choose a file for us to upload. So we're just gonna choose this picture here, and I'm just gonna click on execute. And we can see here that I got a status 200. I got a message that the file has been uploaded successfully. And if I go right now to my bucket, if I click on, where is the refresh button here? Let's click on buckets here. Then let's click on this one. There should be a refresh. Oh, this is the refresh button. And we can see here that the file has been uploaded successfully. This is the same name that we got, 0037. Let's check it here. 0037 D924. Let's check it, D924, perfect. And if we click on it here, we can see this is the resource, this is the object URL. We can see it has the correct bucket name, the right region, as well as the file at the end. Great. So basically, in essence, this is how we can upload a file to an S3 storage, and this is how we can. And we also covered today how we can. What's the different characteristic? What is an S3? What is the classes? What is the encryption utilized within S3? The different implementation that we have there. As well, we have seen how we can implement uploading file to S3 bucket utilizing .NET, and basically how we can create a class library in order for us to do all of that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been really helpful. Please like, share and subscribe if you like this video. It will really help the channel. As well, if you have any feedback or any comment, please put them in the comments down below. And I hope that this S3 series is really helping you out. Again, please like, share and subscribe if you like this video. It will really help the channel. Have a great day.